So 2021 is coming to a close.
But what Kickstarter games do we have to look forward to in 2022?
So we might have some lovely presents coming under this tree later this month, but we can't talk about those. But what we can talk about is what Kickstarters we've got coming next year.
Yeah, well, I'm still in the kind of honeymoon board game playing period. So I'm still in that phase of backing lots of Kickstarters that I've seen, which is something I'm going to try and rein in a bit next year. So I've got a few more to look forward to than you.
Yeah, I mean, I have had quite a few more come this year. And so I'm now at the point where things have arrived and I need to get some more.
Yeah, so throughout 2021, what have we had so far? We've had, at the start of the year, I backed Overboss, which has been great. I really like Boss Monster, so that was kind of an obvious choice for me.
I had Tiny Epic Pirates arrive, and that's quite fun. You particularly like quite a lot of the Tiny Epic series, and I really like boats, so that just seemed a no-brainer.
Yeah, and then a few weeks back, we got Dinosaur World.
Yes, I got Dinosaur World with all of the upgrade packs and also the Roar and Write, and they're just fantastic. The Dinosaur Meeples are amazing. I mean, you get dinosaur rubbers in the Roar and Write, they're just adorable. But we really enjoy the gameplay as well, and I know some people say it's a bit of a table hog, but we have quite a large table to play with, so we've not really had a problem with that, and we're just really enjoying it. Can't wait to play it again.
I was very impressed the first time we played it.
I would think out of last year's Kickstarters, that's my favourite so far.
I really enjoyed that one of all the ones we backed last year to come this year. So what games have we backed this year to come next year?
Number one, you have backed another Tiny Epic, the Tiny Epic Dungeon.
Yes, as we said, I enjoy a lot of the Scott Elms games, and I think the Tiny Epic games in particular are brilliant.
Julian loves a small box, basically. So if anything comes and it's like, oh, you get this ditty little box, yeah, you are sold. Whereas I'm like, oh, that box is huge, fantastic.
Well, at least more space on our shelves for more games. But interestingly, you say about the small box, Tiny Epic Dungeons, and part of the reason that I was seduced into backing it, has kind of expanded beyond the box. It feels a bit like they're restricted by their own rules of that one, because while you can back and enjoy a game with the Tiny Epic Dungeons just normal box, the whole campaign seems to be geared around, you want to get Tiny Epic Dungeons stories as well. I like Tiny Epic Quest. I think it's my favourite of the Tiny Epic games, and let's face it, this is basically Tiny Epic Gloomhaven. So if we can get a Gloomhaven type experience within an hour or so, I think that's really appealing, and particularly with the stories, the way that carries on. But I'm
intrigued as to how they do it, how they make it different and their own, and how it compares to the other ones, because there are some that I enjoy more than the others. I do like Quest, as you say. Tactics is okay. I do quite like the Pirates. Again, they have another dinosaur one, and the dinosaurs are the cutest things going. So I mean, that one gets a big tick already. I think there's just a few from the range.
Yeah, on the whole, I've enjoyed all the ones you play. I hear that the series has been a bit hit and miss for some people, but I've really enjoyed them. So when I saw it on Kickstarter and saw the nature of it, it was going to be a game I backed. And I think if they did announce one next year, if the theme was something I was attracted to, I suspect I would back that as well, but who knows? It's a game I'm looking forward to, and I think that's going to come quite early in 2022.
So another game that you have backed is a Japanese theme this time, Eternal Palace.
Yeah, I backed Eternal Palace partly because we like Japanese themes, and what I try to do with the Kickstarter games that I back is get different kind of experiences. I know lots of people find a game mechanism they like and just kind of stick to those games. I'm still kind of exploring the hobby, and I'm still discovering different ways of playing. And the designer of that is the same designer as Sprawlopolis, which is a game that we really enjoy.
Yeah.
So I've got high hopes that if it's got the dice placing mechanics of Teotihuacan, I think that'll work really well. And obviously the big selling point's the canvas creation.
Oh yeah, this is the one that has the little easels and you make your picture up as you go along. I mean, that looks really great fun, and I think that's the way in which you count your victory points. So you're creating something beautiful to look at whilst also being able to keep track of what your score is. I mean, that's a lovely idea.
But people, when they're playing canvas, say at the end of it, it's just nice to look at what you've created. and hopefully that'll be a similar experience with Eternal Palace. It's you know, we like Japanese games, and one of my favourite games of this year has been Iki. So hopefully it'll be similar visual appeal on a massive board.
And we get to have another Japanese themed night with Japanese cocktails and Japanese games. It's great.
Yeah, so that's one, you know, it's going to come relatively early next year and I'm really looking forward to that. But I might like small boxes, you like massive boxes, and you don't get a box bigger than Frosthaven.
You don't. I mean, you get the updates from Kickstarter and they compare the size that this is going to need to be against Gloomhaven, which is already huge box. And yes, it's considerably bigger. We're
gonna have to clear a whole section of the Kallax for it.
We'll just put it on the top of the Kallax, it'll be fine. I cannot wait for that to arrive. It looks epic. Yeah, there's going to be so much that you can play, so much replayability to be able to sort of go on all these missions and upgrade your little dude. I just find his games amazing.
We've really enjoyed Jaws of Lion.
Yeah.
We don't have base Gloomhaven, and
not yet. I mean, I was kind of holding off because Frosthaven's coming, but you know, I've been tempted once or twice, to be honest. It's like, it's been a little bit delayed. We could just get this one in now.
I played some campaign games, and what I really like is the kind of appointment to play that you end up doing. And I think if we can set aside a point or a time when we can sit down and go on a Gloomhaven adventure, and it's something to look forward to, and to that point, that's something I'm really looking forward to, and it's going to fill up a lot of our year because there's countless missions.
So much game. No, I do have to say that I really enjoy the updates that you get for the Frosthaven. They started off, I think, weekly, and then they went to sort of, you know, around twice a month, I think every other week from there onwards. And, you know, you just get in touch with, you know, today we're writing about the scenarios and next week we're going to be doing this and etc. And it's just really nice to be kept in touch about what's happening about your pledge and the campaign as a whole. And, you know, if there are delays, which almost every game has had in this last year, at least you know where you are with it, you know what they're trying to do and how, and it doesn't matter that it's bad news, it matters that you're kept up to date.
I think it's really respectful for people who've given over money, because obviously when the campaigns end you pay money, and particularly for a more expensive game like Frosthaven, it's nice that they respect the investment that people have made and reward that just by saying we're still working on it, don't worry, we've not vanished. And
well, it's nice with those that ask for your feedback about things as well sometimes, and be like, oh, you know, we were thinking about this character looking like this or that or whatever, and they might not be able to or want to sort of adapt to everyone's points of view. I mean, they absolutely can't suit everyone, but it's nice to be kept in the loop.
And I think Isaac Childress particularly seems like a lovely guy, and the way he's reacted to recent controversies I think is commendable, and it's just going to be something to really look forward to.
Yes, so, and hopefully the earlier part of first quarter, fingers crossed. We'll see. So another one that you have backed is Wild Serengeti. Yeah,
in my real life job, I used to make nature programs. So it's always been a subject I've been interested in. And we watch a lot of nature programs on a Sunday with my girls who enjoy big cats particularly. So what I liked about that Kickstarter video is it kind of gave you that cozy Sunday afternoon vibe where you think, great, we can sit down and play what hopefully, if it scales correctly, will be accessible to a big audience. It's, you know, talking about games that have kind of different experiences, that one looks different to the other ones I've backed. It looks more, you know, quicker to play, less of a kind of epic narrative to experience, but just looks really pretty on the table and has nice table presence, and it has animal meeples.
I mean, I'm hoping that means that it'll be a game that you can play with the girls as sort of a family time one, that because the theme of that will really grab them in. And I think particularly when you're playing with children, they need to be sort of interested in the theme and the idea of the game to then sit down to sort of learn how it all works. And I think that one's really going to grab them in because it looks so beautiful. And they also really love doing things with filming and things like that. So on both elements of that, it's really hopefully going to hit the nail on the head in terms of what they might like.
In terms of attracting a new player to a game who doesn't play a lot, a theme is a good way of attracting people. If it's something they recognise and something they enjoy, they're going to be far more likely to play a board game with us. And I think, in terms of nature and animals, and let's face it, those animal meeples are adorable. I can see why, even as on backer kit, you could just buy a set of the meeples, which you can't use in the game, and they say these have no purpose in the game and may not even fit in the box. But if you want to get another set of them, go right ahead. But I think that's going to really appeal to them, and hopefully that means we've got some more games we can all play as a family.
Yeah, and so the next one is definitely not a family game. The theme's completely different. We're talking Distilled.
Yes, we are appreciators of a spirit in this household. We
did have a time when when the Kickstarter was live, we were having a sort of a time when we were getting different whiskies and tasting them and trying them out. So it seemed really appropriate at the time when the Kickstarter was live that we just sort of had to.
Whiskey tours in Scotland aren't a million miles away. No. But Distilled looks great. I think Distilled's the game I'm looking forward to most arriving next year.
Me too. It does look fantastic.
And I think you can't really talk about Kickstarters comfortably without talking about expense of them, because obviously you're putting out a big outlay on a game you don't even know if it's going to be any good. You've got no reviews to kind of back up your opinion on. But you get so much for your money with that game. I've got everything they basically offered. So I have the metal cubes, I have the individual player mats, I've got the expansions, I've got the Kickstarter exclusive, I think it's the characters and things like that. And I feel entirely comfortable with that because I would have kicked myself if I hadn't. Just looking at it looks right up our street. It kind of hits that kind of sweet spot that I'm moving towards, which is not quite really heavy games, but slightly more meaty than beginner advanced game, midway. I like just a little bit longer. I think if we're going to sit down and it takes 2 hours to play,
great. That's
a great position for us. And watching there's a live playthrough on the Dice Tower just made me want it more.
It was great.
The problem is it's going to be this time next year before we get to play that. And that's such a long wait. But
we've got all that time for Frosthaven.
Hopefully by that point we'd have made a dent in Frosthaven. But that's what we've got. Everdell coming. You backed a game we already have. Yeah,
I mean, I already own the base game of Everdell, and I also own Spirecrest, one of the expansions. Yet I've also backed the complete box of Everdell, which some may say was foolish, but I feel like I wasn't alone in that. It just seemed like it was, it financially made sense to have everything, to have the wooden tree, which I think is going to sustain a longer life of gameplay.
We've played it a fair amount, and I can see some people getting frustrated because they'd backed each of the individual elements and ended up paying a lot more than this super ultimate extra big huge everything Everdell box. But the realistic fact is we've played it quite a lot and probably already got value for money just from that game and had all that enjoyment already from it. We probably would have got we certainly would have got Pearlbook.
Definitely. A friend of mine has Pearlbook expansion with her base game, and the pearls look amazing. I mean, some might say better than the berries. No. I mean, no, that's controversial.
The bouncy squidgy berries are great. But if we got Pearlbook and we would have got one other expansion, already you're looking at sort of 60 quid. So,
and the wooden tree.
Yeah.
So then by the time I did the maths, it just seemed to make sense to get the whole set, have everything, and then eventually when I'm ready to give up the ones that I have, or when I feel like shipping is imminent, then I can sell the ones that I have and make someone else happy and enjoy that game for as long as they would like to.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed Everdell. I think I like it perhaps more than you.
Yeah, potentially.
And it's another one I'm looking forward to coming, because I think the more, certainly when you add SpireQuest, it takes it from a slightly lighter game to more things to think about, and I think that makes it more within our kind of sphere of games.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy it more with the Spirecrest expansion, and I know we've played it in our board game group and several have said they wanted to play it again but with the expansion, so I know that we will play it again some more before the big box arrives.
There's so many collection units out.
I feel like Everdell is one of those, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's an entry-level game, but I think it's one of those mass appeal ones for board gamers. You know, the cute theme with the cute meeples, and you know, you're building up your village, you've got the worker placement and things. I think it's got a lot of things that please a lot of gamers. So
yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So you also have a game that you've played a lot but we don't own, Hanamakoji, along with Geisha's Road coming.
Yeah, it's the last one I backed this year, and I really enjoyed Hanamakoji. Lots of games are two-player friendly, which means they're kind of designed for more but work with two. What's great about Hanamakoji was it's a two-player game, and Geisha's Road, I think, takes what works in Hanamakoji and maybe takes it up a little level. It's another one where they started throwing so much at it, and because Hanamakoji in this country is really hard to get, it kind of made financial sense that it wasn't much more to get the fancy box, which adds nothing but looks nice on the shelf. You know, the expansions included, which just makes the game bigger and more varied. So I think that was one that I was going to get to, you know, to work with a Japanese themed night again, which we'd like to do.
And luckily you backed that set before I'd started buying your Christmas present.
Sounds like you didn't stop very earlier.
Problematic.
That would have been awkward. But yeah, it's another one I'm looking forward to, and I'm pleased with the kind of spread of games I've got. We do have a lot of games obviously coming throughout 2022. Realistically, we could probably not buy anything and still be able to. Yeah, we'd have a flow of games to fill up our pile of shame throughout the year. But we haven't backed everything, and maybe there's been some things we regretted not backing.
I mean, this is my problem, because I've had several things that I've regretted not backing and then had to try and hunt them down later, and whether I could get the Kickstarter version or if I couldn't get it, or whether I could match up. I mean, Dwellings of Eldervale, I hunted for ages for that because I stupidly didn't back it at the time.
I think it all worked out in the end. You got the edition you wanted.
I did, with the moving monsters that roar and all of that stuff that makes it amazing. And we do really enjoy that game, so it's worth hunting down. But I mean, why did I not just save myself the stress and back it in the first place when I knew that I was going to want it? But
you're a big advocate of that. I mean, I tend to rein back and think, but obviously Kickstarter works on a logic of fear of missing out, that you may not be able to ever get it again, and if you don't get it now, you won't get all the extra stuff that you can only get now. And I think
yeah, and I think that's happened with the Everrain, which I really want, and I've managed to sort out getting a copy, but then I don't think that that's going to be the Kickstarter version. So
yeah, I think we've played a couple of times. We've kind of played Kickstarter chicken, where I thought if we haven't backed it because we thought the other one might, I think Dog Park and Flamecraft
definitely. I think we were both in a position where we might back it, and then it came to the end and neither of us actually did, and now I'm really regretting that also. But I have seen that one of our friendly local game stores has got for pre-order the Kickstarter version, so I'm hoping I can rectify that sooner rather than later.
But even so, even having not backed these, with the games we're going to have obviously coming for Christmas, which we don't know about, mysteriously down there, we've got a lot to look forward to in 2022. But it's been and
I've got several openings for Kickstarters, so if I decide that I need to back Marvel Zombies, or I heard that there's a board and game Terracotta Army game which I'm quite intrigued by, so you know, I can do a little shop.
Yeah,
whereas you know,
I'm going to try and resist, but like I said earlier, if a Tiny Epic game comes along and it's Tiny Epic Terraforming Mars, yeah, I might be. But I'm going to try and be more restrained than the 5 I backed this year. But obviously, if you've enjoyed us talking about what we've got to look forward to next year in terms of Kickstarter, please ask us anything you want to in the comments below. Like if you've enjoyed this video, and if you've enjoyed us rambling, subscribing is always great, because then you'll get to see more of us talking.
More rambling.
But thank you so much for watching.